Welcome into another episode of Always Talking Ball. I am your host, Tyler Noe, alongside with me my co-host, Lance Barton. We are going to make this one a quick hitter today. Pretty short episode, but we had to hop on here and talk about these offensive and defensive ratings that EA Sports came out with today for the new college football game. Props to EA Sports. If they are trying to get the conversation stirred, trying to get some clicks, they're playing the Dion game, playing for clicks. They did it very, very well. This definitely gets the conversation going here in late June. Gets the people kind of amped up, 8 weeks till college football starts. Fall camp starting in about 5 weeks. So it's right around the corner. But, man, these ratings, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Not much argument here with the top two. Georgia, Oregon, they're pretty much up there, right? You kind of had a little bit on your list of yourself. You kind of had a little qualm with number 3, which is surprising.
Yeah, Roll Tide. It's awesome. It's great that they've got him at 3, but I don't think Alabama should be power rated as the number 3 overall offense right now. I don't think that's fair to say that. When we know that Kalen DeBoer and his history with offenses is a kind of a quarterback whisperer, and what his offenses were at Washington and Fresno, and when he was the OC at Indiana, and everywhere he's been. But it's just, I don't know how you could power rate them over necessarily going into this year over a Steve Sarkisian coach Texas offense with what they've got coming back, and some of that receiving core, and Quinn Ewers back at quarterback and that offensive line. I don't know how you could have Alabama ranked ahead of even necessarily Ohio State with all the weapons that they're going to have. I know there's some questions a little bit at the quarterback position, but still, we've never seen. I know last year Ohio State fans weren't thrilled with Kyle McCord and stuff, but still, like even Kyle McCord in that offense was still fine. And that Ohio State and that Buckeye offense was still good. So I don't know how Alabama's ranked ahead of them. Again, I would not have them ranked ahead of LSU on offense right now, power rated wise. I wouldn't have them power rated ahead of. Definitely wouldn't have them power rated ahead of Tennessee or Ole Miss. I mean, those two should be in the top 5, top 6, top 5, top 6, Tennessee and Ole Miss. Josh Heupel's offenses everywhere he's been, at UCF and at Tennessee, every offense he's had, even that Joe Milton led offense last year wasn't terrible. And I mean, Lane Kiffin's offense is what that offense is going to be this year. So yeah, I mean, I don't think Alabama should be at 3. They're top 10, top 11, whatever, but not top 3.
Yeah, I think they're probably a tad too high. I think you had them around 10 or 11, but I mean, I love Jalen Milroe, Jam Miller, Justice Haynes. Kalen DeBoer is going to take that offense to a new level. I think the wide receivers right now leave a little to be desired. They got Ryan Williams coming in and Jeremy Bernard transferred in, but they live
the key word with them is the potential. Mm-hmm. The potential. That offense has the potential to be electric. With, like you said, the athlete at Milroe at quarterback and both of those running backs with Jam Miller and Justice Haynes. Offensive line has a chance to be significantly better than they were last year. Again, we don't know who the main receivers are going to be, but there's a lot of guys that's got a lot of talent at receivers. So, again, the potential is there for them to be extremely explosive and one of the best offenses in the country. But this list came out today going into the season of offensive power rankings, and that's just, I don't think that's right that Alabama should be top 3.
Yeah, and I think that EA Sports is doing some forward thinking here a little bit, kind of prepping for what's going to be happening this season, what they think might happen this season for some teams. And then in other teams, I'm not sure where they get off thinking that they are going to be. I mean, we've got to hit it.
Which team could this possibly be, Tyler? Who's the main one, do you think, that's getting a lot of buzz?
They've got to be playing for clicks with Coach Prime. To have Colorado at the number 8 best offense, I mean, I agree. Shadur Sanders is great. Also, their best skill position player is a defensive back. Like, let's think about that. He's a defensive. He better be 99 overall on offense and defense if they're this high as an offensive rating. But think about what
probably
they did
is, though, man. Look, you can't take any of the way. Travis Hunter's real. That dude's legit on both sides of the ball. Yeah.
For sure.
And Colorado's skill, their overall skill, like getting Dallas Hayden from running back from Ohio State, and the receivers they got in the transfer portal to add along with Travis Hunter and some of those receivers they have coming back in general, and Shedeur Sanders, like you said, that skill position is legit. But, dude, to have them ranked at 8 and to not even have Tennessee on the list is woo. And Lincoln Riley's USC offense at 25?
I mean, to have Colorado is the best offense in the Big 12 as far as these rankings go. It's crazy. I mean, think about what they even did last year. They put up 6 points against Oregon. They put up 16 against UCLA, 19 against Oregon State, 14 against Washington State, 17 against Utah. To have them at number 8, I mean, it crushes a lot of the credibility that EA Sports had built up for this game.
Yeah.
I'm still excited to play, don't get me wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I've got a couple of takes on this. Number one, it's obvious. If you say anything negative, like Colorado is such a polarizing team for many reasons. If you say anything negative about them, they come out of the woodworks of like hating on you. If you say anything good about them, same thing. People just hate on you like crazy. And what you just said, though, are facts. Like, those are facts. What they averaged in points per game last year in those games, in those bigger games, against those better defenses. And it's also a fact that, like, I know that, right, all these lists coming out of quarterbacks, like Shedeur Sanders is, like, on high on these lists for NFL prospects. Both are true. Both are true that Shedeur Sanders is legit and can sling the rock. It's also true that his offensive line was complete garbage, trash last year.
I mean, we also saw Patrick Mahomes put up 60 and 70 points at Texas Tech. Nobody was thinking that Texas Tech had a top 10 defense or top 10 offense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. Like, yeah.
100% agree. Now, my take on this is you hit it already, but I'll kind of elaborate a little more. They're trying to create, EA Sports, they're trying to create as much buzz as they possibly can, which, by the way, whoever is leading their social media team, I mean, give them a raise. Big companies should be trying to figure out a way to hire these social media folks away from EA Sports, because the buzz being generated by all of these posts that they're releasing each day in the lead up to this game is insane. The amount of interactions on social media, like how much interaction that they're getting on these, like, it's incredible. Putting Colorado on there because they know, again, they're the most polarizing team in the sport because of Coach Prime and that team and everything else. Putting them in the top 10 on the offense, we'll get to the defense. Don't even get me started on the defense. We'll get to that in a minute. But putting them on these lists, yeah, it creates a ton of buzz. Here we are on this podcast talking about it now. It's the most buzz created from the list today. Colorado was number 1, most buzz created, I promise you, on that post today. And they did that for a reason, and they did a great job in what they did. Absolutely.
I'm also going to absolutely stump for my alma mater to be included. Liberty University, I know their schedule is a joke, but Caden Salter ran for almost 1,100 yards last year and threw for nearly 3,000. Quentin Cooley had 1,400 yards rushing, and both of those guys are coming back. They were top 10 offense last year. I don't know how you don't have them on the list.
They were top 10 offense by the actual factual numbers on paper.
And just the efficiency numbers, too. So it takes into account, the level of teams played. LSU, talked about them a little bit. I mean, it remains to be seen with Garrett Nussmeier, but, I mean, Kyron Lacey's solid. Mason Taylor, they got a solid offensive line. I think they'll be a solid offense. They're not going to have a letdown even after Mike Denbrock left. But
they may not be the number 1 offense in the country like they were last year, but they're still going to be an extremely explosive with a really good receiving core. I think Nussmeier is going to be really good at QB. Again, we obviously majorly respect what Cole Kubelik has to say in regards to offensive line play. He's like the offensive line guru of talking offensive line. And he says that LSU is the best in the country, is the best offensive line in the country. So, again, I respect what he has to say about offensive lines. And they've got 2 tackles that are predicted to be high first-round picks. So, if they've got a really good offensive line, again, really good receivers that are going to be there again this year, maybe not 2 top 20 picks, but still extremely good college football wide receivers in the transfer from your alma mater and Liberty. And Kyron Lacey is a dude. He was number 3 last year that is just ready to step right into that number 1 role like LSU receivers do every single year. So, yeah, I think they're going to be a very explosive, really good offense again this year.
And you mentioned Ole Miss. The fact that they've got the same rating as Penn State. They're ranked behind them, but they got the same rating as Penn State. when you'll remember they lost to Ole Miss in the bowl game, 38-25. Penn State's offense put up 12 and 15 against Ohio State and Michigan last year, which, okay, those are good defenses. But to have Jackson Dart coming back and Ulysses Bentley and you got Watkins, Wells, and Harris at wide receiver, and you got Prescorn at tight end. I mean, they got 10 returning starters. I just think they're a little too low.
They're a little too low. I think they're extremely too low. They should be a top 5 offense going into this year. No question about it. I mean, again, it's kind of like you're talking about Lincoln Riley earlier, and we'll get to them here in a second and more. Lane Kiffin offense is going to be explosive, going to score a lot of points, going to have high efficiency numbers, going to pile up the yardage, going to pop every statistical category on offensive football. It doesn't matter who he has, that offense is going to be explosive. So then you take the fact that you have those names you just mentioned of all these folks that are coming back and the transfer of Juice Wells coming in and all these 4 or 5 deep and running backs for Ole Miss that they've got coming in this year to bring in with, like, to pair along with Ulysses Bentley. I mean, that just spells top 5 offense, and the fact that they're not even top 10 that's a joke.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
Yeah. NC State, I thought they were a little too high. You love Robert Anae and his offense there, but they were 75th in scoring last season. And I know they got Grayson McCall. I know they got a ton in the transfer portal, but quite frankly, I would have Virginia Tech, who's ranked 24th on this list. I would have them above NC State with Kyron Jones, and I would have SMU above NC State. 2 ACC teams, I would have them above NC State.
Yeah, going into the season, I could say that that's fair. But like you said, maybe EA Sports is trying to project a certain way. My projections off what I've looked at, I think NC State's offense is going to be extremely better than they were last year. They were kind of doing the old, quarterback juggling last year, but, like at that position. And obviously when you're doing that at that position with Brennan Armstrong, and they had the other guy that they brought in, and he was there, played for 2 games, ended up like transferring because they went with Brennan Armstrong to begin with. But now with the transfer of Noah Rogers and the Duke running back transfer and the tight end transfer from UConn that is extremely underrated, and what they've already got on that receiving corps in general, it's the best offense on paper that NC State has had in a long, long time. People constantly forget and don't realize that, again, Robert Anae had an offense that was top 3 in the country at Virginia just a couple of years ago. At Virginia, with significantly less talent than he's about to have this year. So, I don't have a problem with it, but I also, I don't understand your pushback on it. Like, what did they do this past year that warrants them going into this season to be power rated ahead of some of the teams they're power rated ahead of? So, but I'm high on them personally.
Yeah. Oklahoma's an interesting team at number 23. I think their offense is absolutely loaded, but most likely by the end of the year, the stats may not look so great because they've got a new starting quarterback. He's starting for the first time, and that killer schedule. So don't be surprised if, they do have a good offense, but they're playing such great teams. And honestly, it's a step up in competition from the Big 12 to the SEC week in and week out. I think their offense is really good. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure that'll bear it out throughout the season.
Yeah, I'll just say it. Oklahoma being at 23, joke. This offense is going to be so legit this year. It is. The receiving core with Deion Burks, Jackson Arnold at QB, 2 or 3 deep at tailback. Offensive line, I know, is a little bit of a question mark, or probably their biggest question mark, period, on their team. But they've got one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. He's one of the most respected offensive line coaches in the country. So you just think that guy is going to figure it out. He's going to figure out how to get that offensive line playing well together and moving some folks on that side of the ball. And I don't know how Oklahoma's at 23. Again, they're the team that just continues to climb. And it's funny, in some of the other shows that we listen to, they're starting to climb on theirs as well. Because I think that people realize that this offense is going to be real. And again, the defense, I know we're talking about offenses right now, but Oklahoma's defense is going to be much better this year too. You got people in year 3 in the Brent Venables system.
Yeah. 2 more teams I want to get to. Tennessee was one of them. You mentioned them earlier. Nico Iamaleava, one of the best wide receiver cores in the country. They should be at least top 15 on this list, maybe top 10. And then USC. I know they lose Caleb Williams, They lose their top 2 running backs, top 2 wide receivers, 3 starting offensive line. But this is Lincoln Riley that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
They got Jaquavius Marks from Mississippi State. They still have Zachariah Branch and Deuce Robinson. And they got Miller Moss coming in. All he did was throw for 6 touchdowns in the bowl game against Louisville.
Yeah. And, dude, I'm so tired of hearing all these people say about, like, well, they don't have the Heisman Trophy winning type quarterback. Baker Mayfield was a walk-on, folks, before he got to Lincoln Riley. And then he became a Heisman Trophy winner. So I'm not saying Miller Moss is going to win the Heisman, but he may put up the numbers to be able to warrant something like that in Lincoln Riley's offense, because that's all Lincoln Riley's offenses has literally ever done. He's never had a bad offense. So I just don't understand how the list here doesn't just warrant the respect that Lincoln Riley's offense deserves. We're not talking about wins, losses, defense, anything like that. We're just talking about offensive power ratings. So that's offensive efficiency, that's points per game, that's total yards, all of that stuff. And his offenses are been the best year in and year out in the country, bar none. And it's just unbelievable that they're at 25.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the defense. It's a little better list than the offense, but still very questionable. Not much arguing with the top 10, honestly. I mean, they got Ohio State number 1, solid defense, Jim Knowles. Georgia number 2, Oregon's 3, Bama's 4, Clemson 5, Notre Dame 6, Michigan 7, Texas 8, Penn State 9, and Utah 10. And there's actually a 6-way tie. All 6 teams are rated 88 overall from 8 through 13. And the 13th ranked team on this list is a team that was number 4 in total points allowed last year, while having an absolutely non-existent offense. In fact, their offensive points per game was helped immensely by pick sixes and fumble returns for touchdowns. And that's the Iowa Hawkeyes.
And their defensive coordinator won the Broyles Award for the best coordinator in the country. So
yeah, and I mean, I guess they could have put them at number 8, and it would have made sense. But props again to the PR team. Hey, let's put Iowa. Even though they're tied with Texas, we'll put them 5 spots lower. Get the people talking, and of course it is. We got the people talking, but I think they have a better defense than the teams they're tied with: Texas, Penn State, Utah, Florida State, and Oklahoma.
Yep. I mean, why is Oklahoma being? I'm sorry. I know Brent Venables is a really good defensive coordinator. They've been getting better on that side of the ball since he's been there, slowly but surely. They're going to be better this year on that side of the ball, but they should not be, like you just said, have the same rating as Iowa. Like, absolutely not. And okay, I'm going here too. I'm going number 3 on this list. Why is Oregon at 3? I'm sorry. Like, why are they at 3 on defense? Like, I have total amount of respect for Dan Lanning as a coach.
Because they held the vaunted Liberty Flames to 6 points, Lance.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay. But I don't understand why they're ahead of, they definitely shouldn't be ahead of Clemson. Definitely shouldn't be ahead of Notre Dame. Why are they ahead of Michigan? Why are they ahead of?
Caveat here: there's 5 teams that are tied to 90 overall, so they're claiming they've got the same defensive rating. Those 5 teams.
You're right.
But
you're right.
Still,
but the way they got them listed, yes.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay, so I did not realize they were all 90 overall. That's a great point, and the way that they ordered that just got me talking the way that I'm talking.
Exactly.
If they would have put Michigan at 3, we would have just skipped right over it. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Good point.
So 14 to 15 are Virginia Tech and Wisconsin. 16 is where this list just absolutely goes off the rails.
Dude.
The Southern Cal Trojans are number 16.
Lincoln Riley's daunted defense.
This is a team, I mean, has Lincoln Riley ever had a good defense? But this is a team
Never.
they fired the defensive coordinator with 2 games to go last year. They were 121st in scoring defense.
It could stop me and you and 9 others if we got on offense right now.
No. They're at number 16. Number 18 is LSU, to where the point, if they had any sort of a defense last year, they probably would have made the college football playoff.
They were like in the hundreds in every major statistical category in defense last year.
82nd in scoring defense. They fired their entire defensive staff. And I know Blake Baker is the man. He brings a lot of promise. They've got dudes on defense for sure. So they can definitely have a lot of improvement this year. But this is where I get confused as whether or not we're basing it on last year, basing it on this year. Because, again, at number 20 At number 20 is, again, Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. Number 20 in the country. This is a team that allowed 35 points per game and 453 yards per game last season. They were worse than USC. They were 124th in scoring defense.
Yeah, there is nothing. I don't care last year, this year, whatever it is you look at.
Did we not see that game that, Stanford came back on them? They just let Stanford put up 40-some points on them and win the game.
Yeah, Stanford was getting buckets on them all night that night. I mean, it's just so any list that you were discussing, like defensive football right now, USC and Colorado don't belong anywhere near that list.
No.
Right now, as of right now. If they play their way into that this year, by all means, that's fine. But as of we sit here today, if you're doing any bit of a ranking, a top 25 ranking of anything to do in defense, USC and Colorado cannot be anywhere near that list.
I mean, they've got the same rating, but they're ranked higher than Kansas State and Chris Kleiman.
No.
The ultimate disrespect.
Yeah. No, that's truly, that's remarkable. We'll keep going here.
It's a second-ranked Big 12 defense, right? If I'm looking at this list right, it's a second-ranked Big 12 defense that these people at EA Sports, they must just not have watched a lot of football. They must have been they've been spending their time putting together insane graphics, putting together awesome gameplay. The videos that we saw that came out yesterday were unbelievable, but man, they just
a lot of the fluff to do with the game. It looks incredible, fantastic.
Yeah,
like you said, the gameplay, the graphics, like the fact that they've got deals where like if your quarterback is getting hit a lot, and all of a sudden it's like really going to be try to be as realistic as to real game as it could possibly be. But a lot of these lists definitely seems like that their social media team is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, which is generating buzz, and they've definitely done that with these lists.
Part of me wonders if they are going to put these out, get some fan feedback, obviously, and see what's working. And there's going to be updates to the game like there is throughout the season as teams suffer injuries, as teams get worse on defense, and they adjust the ratings and everything. So we'll see if that happens. Another one I had an issue with was, and I know they've been better on defense recently, but North Carolina at number 23, they just haven't been known as long as Mac Brown's been there. They haven't been known for a lot of defense.
I got to be honest with you, man. I don't know how much better they've been. That's for sure. They were
75th
awful.
in scoring defense last year.
Yeah, and they now. I love the hire they made of Jeff Collins.
Yeah.
On that side of the ball, I love the hire they made for the new DC. Obviously, they needed to do that.
Yeah.
But I think that could be one of your sneaky, like, best hires of the offseason that we look at later on. And, like, because if North Carolina could just stop anybody these past couple of years, the amount of wins that would have gone up dramatically with Drake May at quarterback and what that offense was doing. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting to see what that offense probably is not going. That offense is not going to be as explosive this year without Drake May.
Yeah.
But it should still be a pretty solid offense.
Yeah. 3 teams that I have issues with not being on this list. And
okay.
Let me know what you think. Nebraska, one of them.
They were top 18, and they were number 1 for me that should have been on this list. They were top, 18 in every major statistical category last year on defense. They were almost like Iowa to an extent where they couldn't score on offense, but their defense was keeping them in every single game.
Again, and yet, so they allowed 18 points per game last season, 13th in the country. Mm-hmm. Now, they're going to be tested this year because they're not going to be in the Big Ten West. They're going to have to play a couple more East teams. They got Ohio State on the schedule. They've got USC on the schedule. But this is where I get okay, they had a really good season last year. They should have been top 25 in defense. Are you forward thinking towards them this year? Because they've got 8 starters back on defense and arguably a top 5 defensive line unit in the country.
Yep. And again, Matt Rule is one of those coaches that he's not going to put a trash defense on the field. He's just not.
Yeah.
And I just the fact that they were what they were last year defensively, they're bringing what they're bringing back defensively. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know how they're not on this list.
Next team, Ole Miss. Again, it's surprising to hear with Ole Miss, right? But their defense has been kind of sneaky good. And they may allow a lot of points, but they got 10 returning starters. They got Walter Nolan coming in. They got Prince Uman Milan coming in, Chris Paul Jr., Trey Amos. Lane's done his best to try to get that defensive improved. I think they're going to be a top 25 defense this year.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I would think that, again, on this list, like Ole Miss should be. They may not be this season, but if we're going on this list right now, yeah, obviously Colorado and USC. We've already said that. No, shouldn't be anywhere near this list. North Carolina shouldn't be anywhere near this list. Florida shouldn't. They're not in the same category as USC and Colorado and North Carolina for me. But Ole Miss should be ahead of Florida on this list, and Florida's at 25.
Yeah. That brings me to my last team, and it's Tennessee. And they've just got to be so burned up that Florida is on that list. And EA Sports must have just been Texas A&M fans or something. They're pissed that the Volunteers won the College World Series. Tennessee was 22nd in scoring defense last year. I mean, they're going to be solid, and they were left off of both of the offensive and defensive ratings list.
You know what's funny, though, man, what you just said in regards to Tennessee, most of your college football fans, when they think of Tennessee, they never think of Tennessee running the football. Josh Heupel's offense has always run the football well. And number two, they definitely don't think of Tennessee and anything to do with defense. And you're right, their defense last year in points per game, that matters way more than the amount of yards you're giving up per game. The amount of points you're giving up on keeping teams from putting points on the board. That's number one thing that should be the most important. And Tennessee, like you said, was top 25? Is that what you said?
22.
Yeah, 22 in the country last year. And they've got arguably, like most of your draft boards have Pierce, their defensive end, their edge rusher, being like the number one pick in this upcoming NFL draft. Yeah, Tennessee should be.
If you're going to throw some stock to Travis Hunter, obviously he's awesome.
Yeah.
You got to throw some stock to Pierce.
Yeah, I agree. But Nebraska was number one. That was the main one that jumped off the page for me. I didn't think of Ole Miss was one I thought of because of what they have coming back. I admit it. Even I didn't think of Tennessee in regards to this defensive list. But North Carolina, USC, Colorado, absolutely. Should be ahead of all three of those easily.
Yeah. Okay. You got any other teams you were leaving off?
No, man. Again, the amount of buzz being created by this EA Sports.
3 weeks away.
Yeah. Like our social media has been blowing up today. We appreciate and love all the interaction that we've been getting with you guys. We love, we love talking ball. So even if it's on social media, hit us up. We love going back and forth with you and getting your takes and your responses to our takes. We really appreciate it. And the buzz that EA Sports is creating is fantastic, and it's just great for the sport. We're really enjoying it.
Yeah, make sure you go subscribe on YouTube for us. Subscribe on the Apple and Spotify. Hit us up on the 3 social media accounts that we have listed below, and follow us on there. We're putting out some good content every day. So we love the interaction. We love talking ball. And so, it's a quicker episode today, just talking about these offensive and defensive ratings. But until next time, we'll see you then.